Welcome to the Millennial Life Coaches podcast. At MLC, our mission is simple: add value to help you take on massive action towards your life goals. Here, we feature amazing coaches from all over the world, share compelling stories, and discuss proven practices to help keep your energy high and in the flow. Learn more about MLC at millenniallifecoaches.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Get Ahead with Millennial Life Coaches. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Lorna Taylor, and I'm joined today by Linda Grizely, who is going to discuss with me everything finance and being financially healthy. And she's going to tell us all about the work that she does with individuals, organizations, leaders to teach everyone more about their money and get their finances sorted. Is that a fair introduction to the work you do, Linda?
Yeah, that's a great introduction. Thanks, Lorna.
Perfect. Anything I missed out about how you would describe your work and what your business and your mission and everything is?
Well, I think that the best way to describe what I do is money meets life, right? Because you can talk to, financial coaches, financial advisors, budgeting coaches, all kinds of things. But if you don't have the strategy fit your personality and your life, it's not going to work. So money meets life is, I think, the best way to describe me.
Yeah, that's just spot on. A lot of our audience and a lot of our community are young professionals, millennial generation, many of them women, many of them that work for themselves. So with those kind of parameters, what would you say is the most important or crucial thing that that cohort, that our audience would need to reflect on or consider or look into with respect to their finances?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's there's a lot there, but I think the basics behind it is it's important to start paying attention to it and understand it. The sooner you start, the better. Don't feel like you're behind, because just get involved, right? There's no better day than yesterday except today. So start getting involved with your finances, start thinking about things. If I had to give like the top things to do: track your net worth, understand what net worth is, track your cash flow, know what's coming in and what's going out. And really just start paying attention to things. And that's the key. Once you start doing that and you start understanding it, then a lot of the other things fall into place.
Okay, so there's three things there. Do you mind just clarifying those three things then? In case anyone doesn't know, net worth, cash flow, sorry, I've forgotten the third thing you've just said. Do you mind just going into some of those just in detail so that I can jot them down at the very least?
Sure. I'm not even sure I said three. Okay. So net worth, and this is, a lot of people don't know what this is. So, I'm glad you asked, because I would love to explain it. So net worth is basically everything that you own, your assets. So that's money in bank accounts, money in a 401k, money in a retirement account. But it can also be your home. It can be a rental property. Anything that you own that's worth value is an asset. And then you list that, and you list the value of that. And then you list anything that's a liability for insurance, for interest. That, I can't say the word interest. For I keep trying to say interest. For instance, is what I'm trying to say. That would be like the mortgage on your home or a mortgage on a rental property, right? So you list the full value first under assets, and then you subtract out any loan against it. So this would be any type of debt. So student loan debt, credit card debt, mortgages, anything like that goes into liabilities. It's things that you owe. And so when you take your assets, the total of everything you own, minus your liabilities, the total of everything you owe, that gives you your net worth. And the idea is that your net worth should be going up every single year. right? There are going to be years when we might have, we might be going back to school or going through some sort of life change. And in those cases, net worth might go down that year, but ideally you want to see that net worth increasing every year. So it's something that you should check at least once a year just to make sure you're on track and make sure that's growing. Cash flow is more of a monthly thing that you want to look at. What money is coming in, not your salary, but after tax going into your bank account, and what money is going out, and understanding where it's going. So people might think of this as budgeting, but it's not necessarily budgeting. It's just understanding. It's not saying, putting into numbers like I can only spend this month. It's just saying this is what I've been spending. And maybe that will lead you to a sort of budget to say, gosh, I need to cut back here because I see I'm spending a lot more than I thought I was in that category. So when you list everything that's coming out, you want to list any expenses you have, your essential expenses, like your rent or mortgage and your utilities and, gas for your car, a car payment, anything like that you have. But then you also want to take into account those things that pop up from here to there, right? So that could be repairs on your home, repairs on your car, anything that comes up once in a while unexpectedly, but also things that are planned like vacations, right? So you want to say, you're not paying money for your vacation every month, but you kind of want to think about like, what do I spend per year? And how does that fit into my monthly cash flow? Am I going to be negative or positive once I add that in? And so it's just kind of thinking about what's coming in and what's going out and understanding where that is. And then there's usually this gray area where, you don't know where that money's going, right? So I say you're going to either list your savings as an outflow, or you're going to take the savings net on your inflow, right? So savings gets put in there too. But then there's usually this gray area where it's like, I don't know where this money is going. And that's usually the money that you're spending on yourself, right? The money that you're, buying that extra impulse buy, something you saw, at the checkout, or those coffees or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for you to realize what that number is. That is that gray area. So that is your cash flow and your net worth in a nutshell. And I think that if I had to add one more thing on there, it would be start saving and investing early, right? Because that net worth is going to grow only if we're saving and investing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is amazing that you brought this up, because one of the things that I had written down I wanted to ask you about was this phrase, I wish I knew this sooner, because I bet you've come across this with many of your clients. And I feel like I, even on a personal level, have learned things about money now that I'm in my 30s that I wish I knew in my 20s, or I wish I knew when I was at school. And saving earlier, investing earlier would mean I'm just that further down the line, and potentially my net worth would be more than it is now. Talk to me about that phrase, I wish I knew this earlier, or the concept of, how important then is knowing this stuff earlier?
It is important to know it earlier. I mean, so many people feel like I wish I would have known this earlier. But I think the truth is that a lot of people kind of know that they're supposed to be doing that earlier, but it's just a lot harder to do because you're more in survival mode. You are still figuring life out, still trying to figure out how you're going to pay your rent, how you're going to get your bills met, because you're new to things, right? So I think that we know that, but I also think that the part that we wish we would have known sooner is that little tiny bits count. And that there is a way to make it fit in, even when you're struggling, even where you're that starving student, like there's a way to make that fit in. And I think if we can make it, like, this is where I talk about, like, it has to fit the person. Because if you come to somebody who's in school and, working part-time, going to school part-time, and you tell them like, oh, you should be saving, they're going to be like, are you kidding me? Like, I spend every dime on all my essentials and I'm young and I still want to have some fun and there's nothing left. But if you take it down and you say, if you took just this tiny bit and you promised yourself you were going to set aside this tiny bit and then never touch it, could you do just this little bit? Because I think otherwise it's overwhelming. So you got to start from where the person is and help them figure that out. But yeah, so many people say, I wish I would have known this sooner. But I feel like that's the time when they're ready for more. And that's the biggest thing about saying that. I wish I knew this sooner. I feel like we need to reframe that phrase to, I'm ready to do this now.
Getting ahead shouldn't mean burning out or following some outdated playbook that never really fit us anyway. That's why I wrote Intrinsic Leadership. It's a guide to help you reclaim your influence, align with your purpose, and lead with confidence without losing yourself in the process. Inside, you'll find stories, reflection prompts, and practical tools you can actually use to lead your life and work your way. You can grab Intrinsic Leadership on Amazon, Audible, or bookshop.org. And a huge thank you to Millennial Life Coaches for featuring me. I'm Melissa Castro, leadership coach, consultant, and author. Come connect with me on Instagram at Intrinsic Lead LLC or find me at www.intrinsiclead.com. Let's level up and lead from within.
Okay. Why do you think, do you think there should be more financial education in schools and colleges and things? Or do you think people are not then ready for it at that age and it's only when they get further into their life that they are then ready for it?
Oh, I definitely think there should be more education younger and in schools because money is a part of everyday life. Like every moment we are alive, we are spending money. I mean,
don't I know it? Oh my God, don't I know it?
I mean, we're heating our homes, we're lighting our homes, we're powering our phones, we're constantly, all of that costs money, right? So money is with us every moment of our lives. And why we don't teach about it sooner. And the idea is that if you understand it sooner and you at least know it's there, you're more aware. And we learn much better when we're younger. So if it's already ingrained in us, then we're ready to take that step sooner. And that still might mean that we're not ready to do it until we're ready to do it. But it certainly makes it easier for us to do it when it's time, because we already understand it. We already have a much greater awareness of it than we would if we weren't taught it in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I agree with you there. You would then, because it's difficult to know what you don't know, but if you at least know of it, you might not think it's for you right now, but you're still aware of it, like you say. That's a really good point.
Right. So take, for instance, credit. Okay. So when you're becoming an adult, you have no credit. So you can't go out and get a loan. You can't do things. And so the best way to build credit is to get a credit card. But if you're not mentally prepared for the idea of what a credit card really is, you can get into big trouble. So the simple thing of educating people on how to build credit and what a credit card is, and starting them right off with the idea that you're going to get this credit card. The purpose of the card is to build credit so that later in life you can get loans and you can do more things. But right now, you need to be sure that you're paying this off every single month and you're just building the credit. And teaching that from the beginning and helping people understand that if you start carrying a balance, then you immediately need to stop using that card, because you're just digging yourself a hole. Like you're going down the rabbit hole, right? So I think just that alone would be a huge service to people, because so many people, when they're going to school, do this because, they're out there, they're like, hey, get this credit card. And it sounds like a great idea. Build your credit. Yeah, it is a great idea. but it's not such a great idea if you aren't aware of how much trouble you can get into and what the consequences might be.
Mm-hmm. And who do you think's role it is to share that information with a young person?
I think anyone that is a mentor to that person. It could be parents, it could be schools. I think in families, it's really hard to talk about money because there's always a lot of stress around money. And I think it's like this big snowball effect where people don't talk about it. And so it gets more stressful, but they don't talk about it because it's stressful. So it's this huge snowball thing. And I think that's a big part of why we don't talk about it. But I think the more that we talk about it and the more that we use it as education, the easier it will get to talk about it. And if you think of, there's so many things at our fingertips now, and there's good advice out there and there's bad advice out there. So you have to, it's hard to tell now what's real and what's not, as far as what's good advice and what's not advice. And this is another reason why it would be really important to have education in schools about this, because then people would be able to recognize, like, okay, is this for real? Is this not for real? Like, what is the truth here? And I think that there's a lot of research that needs to be done when you're looking at something, you're watching something, on social media. Is this for me? Is this not for me? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? Because it's easy to get sucked into something that seems like a great idea, but might not be.
Mm-hmm.
You are listening to this podcast because you are a millennial who is stepping up to take control of your life. And that includes a better financial future. But do you find yourself feeling overwhelmed and anxious about money and financial decisions? And do you feel stressed and worried you can't keep up to the financial demands of life? And then do you beat yourself up because you just can't seem to get a handle on your finances the way you want or know that you should? Well, the problem is not you. It's that you're living in a money story designed by and for boomers, and you are a millennial, and that is stressing you out. I'm Brian Rump, a financial transformation guide. After 20 years of working in money as a banker, financial planner, a business coach, and story brand guide, I've realized that what we all need is to live a better money story, and we have the power to rewrite our own. Here's how I want to help you rewrite your money story. First, we're going to uncover your money story and see which parts are holding you back. Then, we're going to release and reframe the parts of the story that aren't helpful so that we can rewrite your money story and you can build the life you really want. So say goodbye to financial anxiety and rewrite a better money story by booking a free call with me at brianrump.com.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm nodding along and I'm agreeing because there's a lot of, I even see it like, people wanting you to take out store cards, credit cards, put things on, well, in the UK, I don't know if you have it in the US, we have a service called Klarna, which is like paying in installments, and it is very heavily pushed. And the interest rate is insane on any kind of credit done through that system. I'm so surprised it's even legal to have it. But I feel like I am only looking at that through the lens of, I don't think this is a good decision because I've had a bit of education and I've looked into credit a bit. But I can see plenty of people that don't think, oh, this is great. I can buy this now and pay it in 3 payments in the next 3 months and I'll barely notice it, not knowing they've signed up to, a 30% interest rate, 50% interest rate, and they're postponing what they're being able to afford. I just think it's mad how easy credit is to get. And I can understand on social media and how accessible it is for young people to get suckered into, it's fine, I'll just put it on a credit card.
Yeah, it's so easy to get suckered into that. I think living within your means don't spend more than you have coming in. And when you add a credit card into that, it's easy to live beyond your means because you have access to this money that you don't really have. And that's where the trouble comes in, because you think like, oh, I'll just do it this one time, or I'll be able to pay this back, or I've got this coming in later. But that's not living within your means. The only way it's living within your means is if you are able to pay it off every single month. And you can use point systems, like, get bonus things like cash back and vacation points and things like that with credit cards, which makes them appealing as well, as in addition to building credit. But the key point is that if you are carrying a balance, you are not living within your means. You're spending more than you're bringing in, and that's trouble.
So if someone is listening or watching and they have some kind of debt, they have some kind of balance, and they are looking for some kind of support or some kind of pathway to help them maybe get rid of that, is that something that you do with people and you do with clients to work through overcoming their debt?
I do. Yeah, that's one of the things that I do. I work with people with money a lot of different ways, but one of the ways is with debt. We look at what debt they have, how many different types of debt they have, what the different interest rates are, and we come up with a plan for paying off the debt. Generally, there's two methods to debt payoff. There's a snowball method and an avalanche method. One is where you take the balance that's the biggest first, or the smallest first, sorry, the smallest balance first, and you pay that one off first. So you pay the minimum on everything else, and then you pay whatever extra amount you have towards the smallest one and get it paid off. And then you keep the payment the same, and you start working on the next one until you're paying off each, so that you have like less and less amounts of accounts. And the other way is to pick the one that has the highest interest rate first, regardless of the total balance amount, and pay that one off first, because that one's going to save you the most money in the long run. And really, it's just an idea of what makes the most sense for that person. Because like I said, everybody's got their money personality. So if it's going to give more peace of mind to have less accounts to pay for someone, then that's the one we would do. If it's going to give more peace of mind to someone to say, this is going to save you the most money, then that's the one that we would do. But it has to make sense to the person, the structure of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Linda, tell me a bit about some of the other clients and organizations and things that you work with, maybe less on the debt focus side, but maybe more on increasing net worth, growing their income, building their assets, developing their financial freedom. Tell me about some of the more positive, exciting work that you do with money.
Of course. Yeah. So from the savings standpoint, the first thing that you want to do is, if you have a match at your employer, like a 401k match, I'm not sure what it looks like in the UK, but here we have the 401k, and like you can put in money and your employer can match that money. That's free money. So I say the first thing that you do is you max out to the match so that you're getting that free money. Then you want to build your emergency fund. So an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of liquid net worth. So a high yield savings account would be a great place to keep this. And so 3 to 6 months of your expenses, so that if something happens, you have money to dip into. And that would be the second place that I would start saving, is to my emergency fund. Now, you can do both of these at the same time. You can start working toward both of these at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but that's the best place to start, right? Is building an emergency fund and getting that match on your 401k. And that's the basic part of saving. Once we get deeper into saving, we talk about where to invest, right? So education on what different types of accounts there are, what the tax benefits are, and then different theories for investing, whether it's passive investing or active investing, and figuring out what makes sense for the person. So there's different stages of that as they grow into the investing and as their net worth grows.
Okay, and tell me a bit about maybe some of the individuals that you've helped, that you've worked with, and where were they before? Where are they now? Or where are they headed? Like what kind of, on a more practical level, like what have you helped them to transform to?
Yeah, so I think younger people, it's more just getting started and getting a baseline, a foundation of where to begin, and then an idea of what to do next. So they don't know where to start, and they're like, okay, where do I start? And then I give them that, and then we talk about what's next. What are the next steps? So they kind of have an idea where they're going, and they have goals to look forward to. Like, okay, I know that this is the next step. Once I get this set, then I'm going to start doing that, and they've got a plan, right? As far as like how they're going to start building. For people that are maybe a little bit older, have more accounts, like maybe they had one job and they've got an account from that old job, and they've got a new job now and they don't know what to do with that one. Maybe they've got some savings and they've got an individual account, or maybe they're married, they have a partner, and they have multiple accounts, and they just want to start by getting organized. So figuring out, what are all these accounts? What is the purpose of them? Why do we have them? How do they work together? And figuring out like where we are and what it all means, and if there's any changes we need to make, and then again, a plan to move forward. So meeting people at any stage that they are, right, and helping them get organized and create the plan for next steps. So it could be getting out of debt. It could be starting to save and building a foundation. It could be like we've already got things, we just have, they're all over the place and we need to bring them all together and understand it. But the whole goal is to build that mountain of money so that at some point you reach the top of the mountain and you're able to stop working and start climbing down the mountain of money when you retire, right? So it all works towards that. But there's also strategies for saving for specific things like weddings and homes, things that are college, like things that happen during life. So we set goals for that too and work toward that as well.
Tell me a little bit about maybe some of the more maybe alternative or a little bit out there, dreamy things that maybe people have said to you, oh, I'd really like, if the money supported me, I'd really love to do this, or I would love to be able to stop work and do this, or what are some of those things, like dreams that people have said, if we could get there, like this is what I would love. And really, really enjoy that position.
Yeah, I can approach that from a couple of different ways. So let's start with a simple one, which is just say vacations, right? Maybe they have like a bucket vacation that they want to go on, or maybe they want to be sure that they're vacationing every year, even though they're younger, like they want to experience life. They're like, I don't want to miss out on life because I'm young and I want to enjoy it. And I want to be sure that that fits into my lifestyle. So we work on setting aside a fund specifically for vacations so that we know this is how much money we have. This is what we're allowed to spend on vacations. It's part of our plan and it's okay. And that way we don't end up wondering or feeling guilt, wondering if we can, or feeling guilty if we do, because it's already built in. So that's one way. The other one is, people talk about financial independence, retire early, which is the FIRE movement. And that's all about living within your means and saving and being frugal and really saving early, investing early so that that money has time to grow so that you are able to retire earlier, with the idea that at some point you will be able to live off of just your assets. Same thing as retirement when you have that mountain, right? It's just earlier because you start building the mountain earlier and you're more strategic about it and you pay a lot more attention to what you're spending now so that you're able to do that later.
Would you recommend that approach?
I yes, I recommend that approach. It's going to be different for different people, right? So the idea behind it is that you do live much more frugally now so that you can do this. Some people don't want to do that. They're not willing to live that lesser lifestyle in order to have that happen. And that's fine. It's a life choice, right? So it's going to be, like I said, meeting people where they are, figuring out where they are. If it's something that they want to consider, they might have to make some they might have to make some really big life choices, like downsizing their home now while they're younger. Maybe they've already bought into something because they had this dream of owning this home. And then they realized like, wow, this is a lot more expensive than I thought it was. Because homeowners, let's talk about homeownership like that. People, that's often a dream of people like, I want to own a home. But then when they realize like, there's things that need to be replaced on homes over time, roofs, siding, gutters, windows, air conditioners, furnaces, hot water heaters, all of these things wear out over time, need to be replaced. Things happen. And homeownership can actually end up costing a lot more than you thought it would. Taxes, like there's just so much that insurance, there's so much that goes into it that people don't consider when they're thinking about homeownership. So some people that do the FIRE movement actually rent on purpose instead of building equity in a home, which is interesting because sometimes when I talk to people and they're like, that doesn't make sense. I thought, you always build equity. Well, that's true. But sometimes if your focus is saving, then sometimes it does make more sense to rent. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there who be like, oh my gosh, that's horrible advice. But it depends on the person and their situation, where they live, what's the cost of home ownership there. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah, especially if your lifestyle is quite, changes, and maybe you like traveling and maybe you like remote work, or you want the options to be able to take a job or take a role somewhere else. Home ownership is then a commitment and an anchor in one place that might not then serve the rest of your, everything else that you want to do. So it's more of a, it would be defined as a liability then, wouldn't it, rather than an asset?
Yeah, in that case, it would be, because it'd be holding you back from the things that you want to do. I think the biggest point here is that nobody's individual situation is the same as another person. So there's no blanket advice. There's no blanket statement that works for everyone.
Linda, tell us a bit more about some of your speaking and the resources that you have and the coaching that you do, and ways that people could get some more support from you or hear more from you if they were interested in learning a little bit more about this topic.
Absolutely. I have coaching available for anyone who wants to get better in touch with their money, but also, have something that fits their life, because that's what it's all about. Money meets life. And I help them understand where they are, where they want to go. And it's really educational based and mindset based at the same time as it is strategy based, right? So there's a whole lot that goes into that. I have a quiz on my website that is, what's your money personality? And it helps somebody understand who they are with money. And there's no wrong money personality. But I have this thing called the MeMoney Method, which is setting aside an amount for you to spend on you, which is that gray area that we talked about in cash flow. And so the money personality kind of leads into the MeMoney Method and how that helps you with your spending, whether you're a saver or a spender or whatever. It gives intention to it. It works with any money personality. And everything is on my website at lindagriz.com, LINDAGRIZ.com.
Perfect. And you've got a podcast as well.
I do, yes.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about the podcast? What's that about?
Sure. It's called Real Money, Real Life. And it is all about things that go into financial planning. I bring in experts in certain little niches that talk about what they do. And then we talk about like how it shows up in people's lives, right? So we might talk about like a specific type of investing that they have available, or life changes like divorce or, widowhood, or even just living single, lots of different topics. And the idea is just to bring information and be a resource for people so that they can learn about money, because we all wish we knew more.
Oh, exactly. It's one of my biggest things in the last couple of years for me personally to learn more about money and my finances. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, because I'm millennial. I don't know. I feel like there's been a big chunk that I've just been like, nobody told me this. Why was I not told this at school? Why was I allowed to take this massive loan out? Nobody told me it would impact X, Y, and Z down the line. So yeah, so it's a massive thing that I'm personally learning, but I know lots of our community and our coaches and people that we're connected with often work for themselves as well or run a business. And there's a whole business finance side that you've got to get your head around as well as your own personal finance. So for anyone that does feel like they need a bit of support or would like some extra resources in that area, especially if you're not, super confident with numbers or whatnot, and you need a little bit of extra help, I would definitely go and speak to Linda or check out her website, and I'm sure you'll be able to get your first steps with her.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Linda. Last question before you disappear then. You mentioned your program, MeMoney. If you're happy to, could you share with us what you might spend your money on treating yourself? What is it that you put your me money towards? If you're treating yourself, if you're enjoying your spending and, without the guilt, what kinds of things might you treat yourself to if you are looking after yourself?
Sure. So for me, I spend it on things like I bought a face regimen, like a serum and a cleanser and a cream and all these things that I would never have spent that money on myself before I set aside my me money, because I would always feel guilty, be like, I can't spend that much money on myself. Like that's not, I can't afford that. I would tell myself that. But now that I have the me money set aside, like I'm making the choice to buy that. I could make the choice not to buy that, say no to that and say yes to something else. But that's what I'm choosing to spend my money on. And I don't have to answer to myself about that. I don't need to feel, I wasn't answering to anyone except myself. I was the only one telling me that I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And now I'm telling me that I can. So the idea is that, let's say, I don't know, what's your thing that you like, Lorna? Are you a shoe girl? Are you a purse girl? Or what are you?
No, I would say I'm a foodie. I would spend
foodie. All right.
Yeah, I would spend extra on, higher quality ingredients, or maybe even like a fancier meal, maybe if we were going out, I would spend it more on food.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I love that. So right now, if you go out and you do that, do you feel a little bit of guilt when you're doing it? Like, oh gosh, I'm spending this extra and I probably shouldn't be?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. So if you had the money set aside and you knew that it was set aside and it was part of your structure, and you said, this is how much I have to spend, and you had that account and you said, I'm going out and we're going to spend this, but it's going to come from this account, then you would know. And then as soon as that account was empty, you would know you couldn't do more. But you could also save up in that account and not spend it so that you could go out for one super fancy meal and really indulge and something that you would never have done. But now that you're setting it aside, you're making the choice. Do I do this? Do I do this now? Do I do this little treat for me now? Or do I wait and do this bigger thing later? Because that money is going to build if you're not spending it now. But if you are spending it now, then you're saying no to that later. You're saying yes now and no later, or you're saying no now and yes later. And it just becomes like a thought process for this one bucket of money. And it completely reframes how you're thinking about things.
Yeah, it's only me that would be saying no, but I'd only be saying no so that I could say yes further down the line. So I'm going to get it either way. I've allocated the money. It's just whether I want it now or further down the line.
Yeah. So, and for instance, if let's say you're in a relationship where you're with a partner and there's something that you want that they think is ridiculous. Like, let's say you were a shoe person and you wanted like this $1,500 pair of shoes, right? Then the other person might be like, that is ridiculous. You should never spend your money on that. But if you each have money set aside for just you, and you're putting that money into a separate account, or even just cash, whichever, you're taking that out and you're saying, we get the same amount and this is how much. And if you decide you want to buy those shoes, or the other person decides they want to buy those shoes, then that great. That was your money to spend on whatever you wanted. And I'm not going to say anything because that's what you chose. I'm going to be making different choices for me. And you may or may not think that they're the right thing, but it doesn't matter because it's all for me. It's me money.
Yeah, and I'm an adult and it's my money and it's money for me and I'm saying yes.
Yeah. It relieves some tension in relationships because it gives the freedom without any,
Yeah.
any argument over it because it's already decided. It's spent on something. The what doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's not like you're buying a pair of shoes and you're having to decide between that or paying for the car. It's not like this
Right.
or that. We can have both.
Right.
If we've budgeted the money, we can have both.
Right. Exactly.
That's how I'm thinking about it anyway.
Yeah. You're thinking about it right.
Wonderful. Lovely. Well, yeah, if anyone does want to contact you or get any more resources from you, listen to the podcast, check out your stuff on your website. We will make sure we put all the links to all of your spaces underneath the video, underneath the podcast, so that people can come find you on LinkedIn and Instagram and whatnot. Awesome. I think it's such an important thing to do, especially for women as well. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and speaking to us, taking the time to share that with us. So yeah, thank you so much, Linda, for your time.
You are welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.